I need the thumbs up, Jamie. Come on. Oh, thanks. So welcome everyone. As you can see, we have another guest, Maddy, the incoming President of Sports and Engagement. And we'll do a similar podcast that we did with Beth before, where we'll just go through some things about how you're feeling, some plans, and hopefully you may get some insight from us. Probably not, we're not that insightful, but maybe you'll get something from it. So we'll get cracking straight into it really, and sort of ask how you've been coping, because you've just handed in your dissertation. Have you just finished that?
Yeah, I've just finished my dissertation, so now I don't really have that much stuff to do. I've been doing a few handover calls with Chloe, and other than that, just enjoying the time off really.
So before that, did you have? Yeah. Before that, did you have a lot of work to do last minute, or were you quite thorough and scheduled your work?
I had just my dissertation. I guess I was quite scared about not getting that completely right, so going over that loads was a bit of stress. But yeah, then I just had 2 other assignments. I felt like the deadlines were pretty crammed, but other than that, it was fine.
Okay, and then in terms of the meetings you've had with Chloe, how many have you had? Did you have some last week, or has they started this week?
We've had about 4 or 5 now, haven't we?
Yeah,
we've had quite a few.
And we seem to like chat for ages about it's suddenly like we're talking about something and then there's so many other questions that come up.
Yeah. I've tried to like structure them though, so like each meeting we have will be about like one part of the role that might be useful. So like today's one was just a catch up with Adam and how he can best support her, but like the one tomorrow is just about sports fed and what Maddy would need to do for that. And then I think we've got one later in the week about like chairing meetings, how to do that, because she'll obviously have to chair like varsity ops and things like that. So I've tried to structure them a bit, so hopefully they're helpful.
Yeah, they've been really helpful. Yeah, it's just like I've got a notepad and I've already filled it completely up and just take everything in.
It seems a bit overwhelming at the moment, but it's before once you get started, that will just come naturally and you'll be fine. So.
Yeah, I feel like once you get going, there's like a routine and stuff, so it'll be better.
Is this how you're going to do your handover, Chloe? Are you going to sort of phase it throughout the whole month rather than
I think that we kind of had that discussion, didn't we, Maddy? Because it's so difficult. Like we've said that it would be so much easier to be like physically together, sitting in the boardroom, going through things. But I think the best way is to like I've made like a folder called like Maddy's handover on Google Drive. I've literally just put documents in there that she may need that she can kind of go through in her spare time. And then these meetings like that we have online together, it's just an opportunity for her to just ask any questions.
And you've appreciate that approach. Well, I'd probably appreciate that approach as well, to be honest, because it phases you in a slightly longer than just this 1 week of like, here's all the information now, go meet all these people now, go right, that's on over to you, see you later.
Yeah.
Call me if you need, but I don't really mean that.
Cheers, Phil. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got a 17-page document ready for you, Becky. Some light reading.
Nice. To be fair, that's like the varsity review. It's like 30 odd pages. I'm like, yeah, here you go, Maddy. Light reading.
Yeah. I feel it's better to do it in this time though, because there's not really much else to do, so it's kind of makes sense to do it now. So
yeah.
What are your main concerns for the coming year in terms of SAB, or now?
I guess the COVID stuff is pretty scary, and where the sport's actually going to go ahead, like physically. But yeah, I guess that's the main concern at the minute.
Yeah, it's the unknown, isn't it? Not knowing when it's going to end or what's
going
to happen in September.
You can't really plan for it as such because you don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see.
I suppose there's still a huge element to the engagement side of the role that's still around, especially in this online world that we're living in. Because engagement, I think you mentioned society. I'm pretty sure you mentioned societies as well in your manifesto, but in terms of just wider engagement, different activities and things that can be done online.
Yeah. I feel like it gives you more time to actually concentrate on the engagement side, rather than just being overloaded with loads of sport questions all the time. So I feel like it almost helps you focus on that side as well.
It might actually be quite a steady transition then, is, I don't know, let's say Bucks start again in whenever they start again, it may be a nice transition into, right, this is the role, okay, now this is where sport is, okay, and feed in there, rather than you come in and immediately in September, you're like, right, get everyone trained, get everyone done, straight into sport. Now we're doing sport things, and maybe you're still coaching on a Wednesday, who knows? And suddenly you're like, oh my God, it's December already.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
What aspect of the role are you most excited for then?
Oh gosh, I'm quite looking forward to just all of it, to be honest. I think it'll be hard for me if we're working from home, because I like the meeting people kind of side to it. So depending on whether we're working from home or in the office. Yeah.
So you had an opportunity there. You could have buttered Becky up and be like, "Oh, Becky, it's to work with you." That's what I'm most
And
excited
we all
for.
know, no one feels that way.
You can see me over camera.
No, I like that part as well. Going into the office and just like going to work already, just in the office, everyone's there together having a good chat. So we have an odd tangent sometimes, that we're just sitting there working, and suddenly we go into conversation for like an hour about some random thing, not even about work. But yeah, I do enjoy that part as well. But yeah, I do miss that.
But then, to be fair, the being from home stuff has its perks as well. Like, it means that you can kind of actually shut off a little bit from things. You can get stuff done a lot quicker than you would be able to in the office. Because what we do, we all know this, we go in, we do go off on tangents, and sometimes the things that you want to work on, you can spend half an hour talking about something completely irrelevant, whereas at home you can almost just ignore stuff, get it done. So it could be quite good at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting next year to see what's kept in terms of what's kept online, what's kept then goes back to face or whatever else. Because as you said, Becky, a lot of it will be is better practice than what we do face to face online. And there's lots of opportunity for community building and things like that, which societies have sort of led the way on in terms of different platforms that we use now. So it'll be interesting. You may have already had some thoughts on this, Maddy, and with your meetings with Chloe, you might have got some insight. But what do you think it's going to be like next year in terms of being a SAB, whatever SAB really means? What does it sort of mean to you?
I guess supporting the students in whatever like they need. But I guess the COVID thing at the minute is obviously on my mind a lot, about how we're going to support the students, even though we could potentially be online. So I guess I've been thinking a lot about how we can go and work around it, really. But yeah, there's a lot to think about at the minute.
As a student support, though, like of what we actually do, I think it hasn't, if anything, it's helped us being online, because the main ways that we were communicating with people wasn't in person. That was not the kind of best practice that we had. It was all on social media or emails or whatever. So actually it hasn't changed that much. If anything, it's made it better for us, because they're also now all virtual, all online. So it's almost like a captive audience. To the support we're giving, it hasn't changed.
I guess it's easier to reach students sometimes online.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, because like you said, similar to you, Maddy, students now, or some of them now, have a lot more time on their hands, so are more engaged and more interactive online than they would have been before. Chloe and Jamie, and Becky, to be fair, what did you think? So try and take yourself back. For Chloe and Jamie's 2 years, for Becky it's a year. What did you think SAB was going to be like, and what is it like? That's a poorly phrased question, but
well, I don't know. I thought it'd be quite busy. I knew it'd be, but I knew it was, and I think it's shown that, because obviously I like to go on to do events on like evenings and try and attend as much as I can. So I knew it'd be busy. You knew you'd have to work. It's not like a 9 to 5 job, put it that way. So and I kind of was expected for that, really. But yeah, it was definitely more better than I thought it was going to be, I think, originally. So.
Yeah, I think I'm the same with the 9 till 5. Like, I think I expected it not to be within those 9 till 5 hours. Like, you're kind of working all the time, without even realizing it sometimes. But like, I think for me, I was never really like, I'm still not like very political. And I think that's one aspect of the role that I was a bit worried about, that I wouldn't be as good as the rest of like you guys, is that I'm not a political person, and I think I've found that you don't necessarily have to be. You can kind of be as political as you want to be, and you find that you'll be passionate about a lot of campaigns that you find that you end up being political without realising it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of the time, Chloe and the rest of us have engaged in different things because we're passionate about it and don't realise we're being political by doing so.
Yeah.
When in actual fact we are. So, I don't know, Maddy, you may be really passionate about women in sport, for example, and that just may be a passion for you, but you actually are being political in the same sense of that as well. So political, I think a lot of people, myself included, see politics as Parliament.
Politics.
That kind
but
of stuff,
it's not necessarily
bigger than that. Anything's political, I think, especially in a students' union. If it's contentious and there's even a slight bit of like animosity around it, it's political.
Yeah.
We're holding the university to account, isn't it?
We're politicians. Like, so everything we do is political in some sense. I think, in answer to your question, Phil, when I first came in, I thought it wasn't going to be as busy, but because I get involved in everything, and you got the opportunity to get involved in everything, which I didn't realise you had to. I thought you were stuck in your remits. So I kind of thought that you go in and like development, that is just societies, right? So I was like, oh, I'm going to be stuck doing societies for a whole year. You can get involved in anything. And I think that's a really positive thing for it. It's as busy or as not busy as you want to make it.
Yeah. And I think I don't mean this to scare Maddy, so I'll explain myself when I do say it. But I don't think I anticipated the level of responsibility that comes with the role at the start. And I don't mean like responsibility to, I don't know, you're responsible to students or whether. I think I meant like a responsibility to just be the best version of whatever you're trying to be. So whatever you're trying to represent, whoever you're trying to represent, just be that same or be that person. But you are ultimately responsible to students and accountable to students and stuff. But eventually that just becomes quite normal. So at the start, you might be a bit like, oh, why is this person questioning what I do? But then ultimately you realise, oh, it's because they've elected me to be responsible for them. So I need to hear what they're doing and I need to be criticised, and criticism actually a good thing. But that was a bit hard at the start, where you go, well, hold on, I'm working my nuts off to do something. However, you're now criticising me, but the criticism isn't direct personal criticism. It's saying, look, I've elected you, you're responsible for me, I trust that you're responsible for me, but this is what I want you to do because of that. And I think that's something that's interesting at the start. The first couple of months are interesting about that.
I think take that bigger as well, Phil. I didn't understand the role that we played in terms of board of trustees either. So the role that we play in the union generally, in as much as we have a lot of, and I suppose it is responsibility, but it's more than that. It's almost like a personal ethic kind of thing, where you go, I need to do what's best for the union in general and for students. And that weighs quite heavy sometimes when there are big decisions to be made, especially around COVID. I think we felt it at one point where we were like, oh my God, this is on us. Like, we need to make correct decisions here because it could affect people.
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? If it affects people. And I don't necessarily mean people as in students, although they obviously count, but
Staff,
it's just
everybody.
Staff, other organisations that we use, finance that we outsource, those sorts of decisions. But it's also for me personally, it's exciting, and it's development, and it's whatever those buzzwords are, and that's the sort of stuff that I personally quite like, because I don't know, it's just an aspect of the role that I didn't think was there, but actually it's quite a good one. It sounds scary, so I don't want to scare Maddy, but it's not actually that scary when you're actually in it.
Well, the thing to remember as well is, I said this to Nathan the other day, is that we are a team. Like, you're not on your own. There are not only SAB team, but there's a whole staff team behind you as well. And there is a massive culture in our union of we're all family. Like, we all are in it together. And I mean, I've experienced it where they back that up. Like, they really, see that through. So you're never on your own. As much as it seems like a massive weight and a massive responsibility, you're never doing it on your own.
So that leads me on to one of the questions, Maddy, in around how you think the team is going to be next year, basically. And I was a bit weird asking you that with Becky here, but
no, I feel like we'll all get on really well. Through elections and stuff, we got on really well anyway. I've met Nathan for a few social distancing, obviously, cycle rides. And so we do all get on quite well, I think. And I think it's positive as well to have a good relationship with Beth for the societies.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll pan out well.
Yeah, it's going
Nice
to
and
be
diplomatic there. Well done, Maddie.
Well done, Maddie.
politician, already a politician.
Whilst you're getting at Christmas, Maddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whilst you're getting at Christmas time.
Yeah.
That was a laugh of.
Okay, you might have shot me by then.
I think it'll be the other way around, if anything, Maddie.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see because whatever handover looks like, Kate's still planning it and doing a lot of detailed work on it. Actually, it looks really good. But what you'll miss next year, which was really good for us, is when we went on residential.
Oh yeah.
And when we went away for 3 days, and suddenly we did all this forming, storming, norming, all those things, and we went and tried to establish ourselves and find out a little bit about ourselves. And there's loads of psychological things that we did that Becky will remember those names of those people, but I've forgotten straight away.
We did Bry's Miggs test, and we did what was it, Jahari's window and stuff like that, to figure out who we were, how we worked together. And Jahari's window is understanding what we know, what we don't know subconsciously, etc.
Yeah, those people.
You make it sound good, but when you went to Margate for a few days.
It's not about where we went though. It's about what we did.
Yeah. Do you not remember? So Maddie, I think we will do something very different, but we'll have the same kind of process. It will just look different. But when we went away, I remember thinking before we went away, I didn't have a clue really who the team were, and I didn't know my place in the team because they were already formed. And then when we came back, we'd all kind of figured out where our roles lay and how we worked together and kind of who you could rely on for different things and stuff like that. But the difference here is that you're not coming into an existing team for a start. Yeah. I'm the odd one out, if you like, if anything. And we do all know each other, whereas I didn't have that before. So I think there are positives on both sides.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like, will there be something online?
Oh yeah, there'll be loads of socially stuff that we'll do to do exactly the same things. I think the difference was that we just went somewhere and lived in a house for 3 days together.
Yeah. And with residential as well, I think me and Maddie have both spoken. Like Maddie's a bit worried about like Bucks conference, and obviously the 2 years that I've gone, I've found that so beneficial in terms of networking with other sports SABs across the country and other ideas that they've had. That I know Maddie's a bit worried that if she doesn't get that, then when will that be? And that kind of training that you get early doors and those conferences we go to, that what would they look like, sort of thing.
But there is so much other stuff available. So there is a thing, Maddie, called the Student Opportunities Festival, which will literally try and encompass all of the conferences that we've gone to, or we would have gone to in the summer, in one. And Lead and Change will also be online as well this year. So these conferences are still available. Okay, it won't have the physical element, but actually, I mean, last year I didn't go to Lead and Change, and to be honest, although I said I missed some of the networking, it didn't matter a massive amount. There are other ways to find that, and we can all help you find those ways. NUS, because we're still affiliated, is a really good tool to make your way into groups and to know other offices in the country. You don't need to go to specific things, I don't think.
And Southern Unions as well. Southern Unions hopefully will be whoever's turn it is. I don't know whose turn it is, but hopefully there'll be somewhere all the sports SABs from every Southern Union get in a room, chat, network, and then
facilitating network.
Everyone, the worst thing in the world. Sorry, it is the worst thing in the world.
Well, no, it is important to get to know other presidents from other unions as well, though, just to get to know them.
It is, but some people do them in such cringy ways. Like Bucks conference last year, they did like speed dating, and they literally put you in front of one other sports SAB for 5 minutes. You had questions that you'd ask about each other, and then you'd like rate each other out of 10, and then you'd have to move to the next person. It was literally my worst nightmare ever. But
that sounds hideous. That honestly sounds hideous.
Yeah, someone from Bucks' idea just wasn't fun at all.
Oh crikey.
But I think what's important, like a little bit of advice maybe, is people are going to be different to you. So in the same role, you could have the exact same role, sports and engagement, and let's say somewhere from, I don't know, Essex, for example, that person could be completely different to you, and that's actually okay. And it's important to realize that you're going to do the role completely different to Chloe did the role, and they're completely different to somebody else in the same role as you. because sometimes it is easy to go, oh, they're talking a really good game, aren't they? They've done this and they've done that, but a lot of the time it's fabricated. They've either lied or they've amped it up for emphasis.
Or they haven't done it, their staff have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of this role is to seeing through people's bull. And that means other SABs, but other people around as well. But it's important to know that as long as you have confidence in yourself and the people around you and whatever, then it doesn't actually matter what other people are doing down the road, up the hill, wherever. Doesn't make a difference.
Also, we're quite operational SABs, I'd say, our union as well. So we end up getting involved doing a lot of things, like helping out with, I don't know, running campaigns or making campaigns or being like organisation part of the role as well. Whereas a lot of other unions have like staff do all the work and you just sort of have to deliver it. That makes sense. So it's good that we actually have to like do it to actually make the stuff ourselves as well, which is quite good. So it gives us a bit of boost our knowledge and that skills. And
that was the hardest thing when I first started to get my head around. I remember going to, I can't remember which conference it was now. It was early on in the summer with all of you guys and sitting there going, these are all doing, you know, these amazing.
Southern Unions.
Was it Southern Unions? One of the first
UEA.
ones? Yeah.
UEA.
That was it, yeah. And I was still doing my dissertation, I think, and whatever. And we went away, and I remember sitting there talking to someone from Anglia and Ruskin, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing this and doing that, and da da da." And I remember going away, going, "Why can't we do this? This is what we want to be doing." And then Tom Ritchie, who was the Medway coordinator, said, "You guys are very different. You don't have 30 staff members for one SAB or whatever. Like it's a different way of working." But actually, what I came to realise was that was positive in itself, because everything that we do, we know 100% that we've done it, and we kind of have this control and agency over what we do, whereas other places just don't. And they come up with an idea and then someone else runs away with it, and then they have to go, "Oh, okay, well that wasn't quite what I was thinking, but sure." You know, so there are lots of different things around that. I think it can be quite frustrating, but it's also a positive. Yeah.
So that does lead us on to talking about your manifesto, Maddy. And I'm not here to interrogate, because you know your manifesto better than anybody, to be honest. But the only question is, what's your top priority, really?
I think obviously it's going to depend whether sports do go ahead again. But I think in the current situation, it gives me a good opportunity to work with the societies. I've got a lot on my manifesto about like relationships. And so you can actually really easily build them over the online. So even relationships of Christchurch sports and stuff, you can easily do that over email and call rather than be in person. So I think that'll be a big one for me this year, considering the circumstances.
Yeah. So trying to create relationships between, well, there already are relationships, but strengthening relationships between Christchurch sport and us. But also around, like you said before, it's going to be you might have to do a lot of relationship building with different students and go, sport is going to be whatever sport is going to be when that decision's made. Speak to me about it, such type thing. Which may be a large section of your role. But all of that is engagement, and all of that is community building and things like that. And I think the union potentially has quite a big opportunity to stride forward in its community building as well, which the whole team will have an impact on next year.
I think that I really, if you were going to ask, like, Maddy, what would my thing for the next year be? I think it's all of you guys building your individual communities, but building a big one together and really focusing on that. Because I think that's what we've done virtually, and I think we just need to keep doing that with the new world as it looks. And because building community then helps people feel safer and more secure. And I think a lot of people, there's so much uncertainty in students now. That's our role, is to provide that safe space for them. Maybe it's not physical, but there's something.
So would you say that's potentially on the joint priorities list? Because obviously I'm not going to speak for the team next year, but I'm assuming that there'll be some joint priority similar to what we have.
Nah, we're getting rid of the big nine, Phil. Rubbish idea.
Well, if you can get rid of it, but it doesn't change there might be joint priorities.
Yeah, I'm only joking. Yeah, I think for me that would be that was what I would say to you guys, is I'd suggest that we do something around building our individual communities and working together on that in a joint way, because I think we've all learned, all of us that these remits are fine, but ultimately they don't work in silos. Like, you have to work together on things, and we've kind of shown that when we do all work together, better things happen. So I think it'd be stupid to not do that in the coming year.
It'll be interesting. I wonder if it'll be interesting for you, Becky. You're a psychology nerd anyway, as everybody knows. But I wonder if it'll be interesting, because at the moment, I'm assuming you're very aware of, right, I have an issue. I know that Chloe can help me with that issue. Chloe has these sets of skills. And it'll be interesting to see what skills the group has, and then also what sets of skills the group is missing, because we, as a group, don't have certain skills. It'll be interesting in that storming, norming, whatever stage that if the
Phil, you think I haven't already done this? Come on, I ran with these guys in elections for 2 weeks.
Maddie, she's got a 40-page document on just you and all your skill sets and your weaknesses.
Well, but do you remember, Maddy, during elections, we identified quite early on that me and you were the two that would push forward and kind of take action and do that sort of stuff. And then Nathan and Beth had other skill sets where they almost like would do their own thing, but together, that made them strong. And we worked really well as a four, because like me and you went to Medway, and you had the voice and the confidence to walk into a room and to go and speak to students in that way. Whereas I knew that Nathan and Beth wouldn't have had that confidence. So it's building upon different people's skill sets, even in that instance, that, you know, would make you good for engagement, for example. And know that, say we were doing lecture shout outs, I'd turn to you and go, Maddy, you're absolutely fine talking in front of people. You know, that's the kind of thing that we'd need to be drawing upon.
Which is a massive skill, to be able to go into a room and just address the room and be like, this is what we do, this is who I am.
And that's not to say that the other two don't or couldn't, they need to work on it. But it's in the same way that our team this year, like, you all know that I'm a loudmouth. So like when Chloe wanted some support in a meeting, you drag me along so I can be your mouthpiece. Like, and that's kind of how teams work. You utilize people's skills and positive characteristics. There you go. That's where I'm going with that.
So sort of on the back of that, Maddy, if you could get one outcome for you, so that could be a success on your manifesto, or it could be a personal, no, actually, let's say it's a personal outcome. So if you could get one personal outcome from this next year, what do you think it would be? It could be, well, the example we usually use is speaking to a crowd or whatever, but you seem to be able to do that already.
Oh, I don't think so. I get quite nervous. So it'd probably be to become more confident. And so I know I sometimes come across like I can chat to anyone, but sometimes I'm very nervous inside. So maybe just like feeling more confident.
Yeah. And that will come because you're put in front of a crowd so many times, especially in like our role. And the role you're going to go into is because you're going to be doing committee training, and that's going to be to a couple of hundred students. You're then going to be landed with sports fed, which is going to be to like 500 students, which seems like a million miles away right now. But when you get there, it's actually like really okay in a weird way. But yeah, there'll be so many opportunities where you'll like speak to so many people that after a while it will just become normal.
Yeah. So I think I'm quite lucky as well. I have had being on exec, I was able to do the sports fed awards and stuff with Chloe. So I kind of have a feel for that already, but I think just being more confident to do it will be hopefully improve anyway.
That'll come.
But I think Jamie and I have had this conversation before. That's probably the number one thing where all of us have improved, is just confidence in ourselves. And skills as well, but confidence in ourselves, being like, I do know what I'm talking about and I am intelligent in this aspect or that aspect or whatever, is definitely something that SAB really helps with, ultimately because you're put in the deep end and you're told to swim. So but it does I think as the one thing that SAB I think can guarantee for most people is confidence building. Because you have support structures in this SAB team and staff team or whatever else. So let's say there's signs that you're potentially not doing, you're not as confident as you were. Adam is there to pick you up and say, no, you can do this, and things like that.
It's something that I think I struggle with at the beginning of the year, but obviously bravery. So it's like in meetings, you have a right to be there in meetings. You have a right to speak out. So don't feel like worried about saying the wrong thing or whatever. So definitely, if you've got a point of view on something in a meeting or whatever, 'cause I'm sure you will at some point, definitely speak up and give your opinion on it.
But yeah, I'm out of questions. So,
Is there anything you wanted to ask us, Maddy?
oh, it's like a job interview. Go on, Maddy.
Actually, I'm like sweating a bit. No, I don't think so. I guess obviously you don't know, but my biggest question would be when like we were back in the office. When would we, but then you don't even know that. So
You'll start your year not in the office.
yeah, I think.
Yeah,
It's
well, no,
funny.
definitely.
People have like different opinions on it. Some people just say, "Oh yeah, you know, it'll be fine," and then other people say, "Oh no, you'll be online for ages." So
We will be online for quite a while. Like this, we're not going back next week. Like that's not happening. Ultimately, it makes no difference, Maddy. Like it really doesn't. We meet every single morning. We see the team every single morning. We have leadership team every 2 weeks. Like we're constant. If anything, we're probably having more meetings now than we did do before. And I know that it's the novelty of being in the office and stuff, but there aren't any students there. In the summer, there's no one around anyway. It makes no difference.
Summer is so dull.
It is. Yeah. There's no one around.
It's a great opportunity to plan and get your feet on the table, whatever, but it's so dull.
Yeah.
In terms of like socializing, like
there are still students around, but a lot of those students have heads in books and are very much knowing what they need to do in order to get through. So postgraduates are very much doing different things at the moment to get through. Make sure they get their dissertations done and things like that. And PGRs are sort of constantly, although they're not on campus now, PGRs are always sort of going through the system, but are very much their own community almost. But it's a significant difference when September the 1st hits and their students come back. Big difference.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry too much that you're missing out not being in the office. Obviously, I wouldn't worry. Like we'll be there when it's necessary and when it's safe to do so. And I think the fact that we're at home is a really good thing and a really positive for the union and the university, and the fact that they have allowed us to do this, because I wouldn't want to be and putting the safety of my family at risk.
Yeah, definitely.
On this occasion, what the union does and what the university does is probably going to be different. So I can't imagine, I don't know when the university will go, right, people can go back on campus, but I can't imagine that the union will necessarily tie in with those same dates. I think there'll be two different decisions on that.
And whilst you can do the stuff online, you may as well stay at home anyway, if you can do it all online.
Yeah. I mean, we can do everything. And actually, like we said before, some of the things we're actually better at doing it online and working from home. Definitely our culture and like best practice of the way that we communicate with each other is better now than it was before. It's a lot more formal and things seem to be moving forward better.
I think that is as a consequence of what Jamie said before, where you can just have an hour conversation in the office that doesn't necessarily do anything and has no actions to then progress. You've just had a conversation, which is sometimes great. There is the upside of that, as Jamie mentioned, but sometimes.
Whereas when you call someone specifically for a purpose, you reach that purpose and you have your action points and stuff, so it's not wasted time.
Yeah.
It'll be different. It'll be good though. I think it'll be fun, exciting. There'll be some negatives, but there's negatives to everything.
Of course.
Yeah, it'll be really
good.
you
get us. Yay. Brilliant. Cheers, Maddy. That was really enthusiastic there.
Don't worry, Maddy. I've worked with Becky for a year. It's a delight.
Sorry, when's June 30th?
Oh, can't come soon enough. Counting down the days.
Soon enough, literally.
Can't wait to slap that 18-page document on your desk and be like, see ya. I'm actually not looking forward to it at all. I'm unemployed, so.
Same.
Anyway, thanks, Maddy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Maddy.
Thanks, Mads.